welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to be talking all about first-time buyers if you are a foreign national. For foreign national first-time buyers, things aren't as straightforward as a regular first-time buyer. So today's video we'll be talking all about the tips that you'll need to get your first property. Hello, welcome back to our channel and podcast. My name's Gemma, and here at WS we talk about all things relating to money, mortgages and positive money mindset. So if that interests you, then be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the thumbs up. It really helps with our YouTube algorithm and means that you won't miss out on any of our videos. On today's episode of Let's Talk Money and Mortgages, we have Ifthi joining us. And for those of you who don't know Ifthi is a trained accountant and mortgage advisor who has been in the industry for over 10 years. And he is also one of the founding directors here at WYS. Welcome back, Ifthi. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing, Jemma?
I'm doing good, thank you. I'm quite excited about today's video because we've been getting lots of inquiries recently from foreign nationals looking to purchase their first property in the UK. And there are quite a few different stipulations, so I think it's a really good one to do today to help people out. It's not so straightforward, is it?
Yeah, definitely not straightforward. Unfortunately, it's a bit more difficult to get this type of mortgage.
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing I thought we should start with probably is just really like why it's so difficult to get a mortgage as a foreign national, like what the issues are really they might be facing.
I think there's mainly three issues you have for foreign nationals. One is they're on a visa. So visa generally has a deadline, right? Visa will expire in 2 years, 3 years or 5 years, depending on the type of visa. But the problem is the banks worry, right? What happens after 2 years? Do they have to go back? Which means there's a risk from a bank's point of view, because obviously they've given you a mortgage and, they'll want to recoup the money that they invested in your property. So therefore, visa is one thing that worries lenders, because there's no assurance that your visa will get extended, right? Because there's a chance that it could be rejected. So that's one of the reasons that lenders are reluctant. The second thing is, with foreign nationals, they've not lived in the UK throughout, right? So you come to the UK a year or 2 years, maybe 3 years past since you've come. Because of that, the system looks at the credit history of a person. He or she might have a very good credit history back home in whatever country it is. But when you come to the UK, you have to build your credit from scratch, from zero. So if you're trying to do that, it does take a lot of time for you to build the credit history to bring it up to a very good standard, right? So that is another thing that foreign nationals struggle with. And the third thing they struggle with is deposit. Because usually when you say you're on a visa, a lot of lenders say, oh, you're on a visa, so you need 25% deposit, right? There are a few who might do exceptions, but majority of the lenders will say 25%. Some might even say, sorry, we don't deal with foreign nationals, right? So those are the three main reasons why it's difficult for you to get a mortgage as a foreign national.
Let's talk then about the deposit size and what to expect. So are there any lenders at the moment that would do a 10% deposit for foreign nationals?
There is some good news. It's not all bad news. There are some lenders. There aren't too many, but there are a few. And there are a few high street banks as well. The reason why I'm highlighting the word high street is generally the high street rates are a little better than some of the second or third tier lenders, right? So there are a few high street banks who will do it. So yes, you can do with a 10% deposit. There will be some conditions for sure. So one lender, I know, they'll say, okay, we'll do a 10%, but you should have lived in the UK for 2 years and your credit history should be decent, right? So there is another lender who will say, okay, we actually don't even want you to live for 2 years, but if your combined income, like let's say it's a joint application, if your combined income is 100,000, we will still consider you, right? So there is lenders who say that. There are some lenders who say, okay, so long as you've lived in the UK for 1 year and you got 12 months more to go, we are happy to consider, right? There are a few small conditions for sure, but there is a way around this, right? So there is stuff that you can do. It may not be workable for all, but I think majority of the people we speak to, they somehow fall into one of these buckets, right? So, and we can make it work for them. So fingers crossed, there should be a solution for most,
Yeah, you actually just touched on something else that I think is quite important, especially I've noticed when speaking to people recently, is the minimum amount of time that they need to be in the UK before they can actually apply. Now, I think it's 6 months, isn't it, that you become a resident?
Again, it depends on the lender. Some will say 6 months. Some will say 2 years as well. The main reason why they say that is because sometimes 6 months is a short time to build your credit history.
Yes.
Because your credit history takes a little bit of time. So I'd suggest, if somebody is in the UK Just try to build your credit history from day one. So
Yeah.
plan from day one so that your process is a bit faster, right?
Yeah, because that's the problem that we have. We have people come to us that have been here sort of 4 or 5 months, and they're like, "Yay, it's nearly a month before I can apply." And then we say, "Well, actually, have you registered on the electoral roll?" No. Oh, have you got a credit card? No. Oh, there's no credit history, so that's what the issue is. So yeah, definitely good to kind of get ahead of those things as soon as you get here if you intend on buying something.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to the visa issue, is there any way around the visa issue? So say like your visa is expiring soon, or what can we do? What do lenders like to see? Or
usually lenders like to see at least 6 months left in your visa, right? Because that's generally a condition. They may have other conditions attached as well, but generally they want 6 months left in your visa. Worst case, sometimes we can, this is again down to negotiation. Sometimes you can come to an agreement with the bank. If you're on something like a work visa, maybe you can get a letter from the employer to say the visa is definitely going to get extended. And it's only a matter of time before this gets extended, because obviously you can only apply for a visa when it sort of expires, right? So if you can do that, sometimes it works as well. But if you have something sort of complex like that, I suggest you speak to an advisor, someone like us who might be able to look at your case and come to some kind of arrangement with the bank before you make the application. Because with application, you'll be running credit searches, and if your credit score is anyway not great because you've been in the UK only for a short period of time, it can affect, right? So this may be a bit of a specialist area. So please try and get advice on this area for sure.
Definitely. And I just wanted to say, because I actually spoke to someone last week who had done this, so I just kind of wanted to say, if you are a foreign national and you're looking to buy your first property, I would definitely suggest not running any decision in principles until you've spoken to a broker, because I had someone who was going to every lender online running a decision in principle or agreement in principle, some people call it, and it was failing, and then they just kept going to the next one, trying, and they didn't realize the implication that could have on their credit rating. So I would probably suggest to speak to
definitely, because that's a common problem, right? Because obviously if you're a foreign national, most of the time you don't understand the UK systems, right? Not all countries have a similar system. So because you don't know the system, you might just do something which you think is right. Better to always get advice on this area.
Yeah, definitely. Whilst we're on sort of credit reports, etc., why don't we talk about the ways that someone can improve their credit score? Yeah, what's your top suggestions, Ifti?
Okay, my top suggestions is, if you're in the country, I'd say register in the electoral roll from day one, right? Don't hold back that decision. A lot of people think, like, especially again, when you come from abroad, the systems are different. They think you have to be British before you can vote, right? It's not the case, right? So register there. Some have reservations, but if you're interested in a mortgage, do that, because banks like to see your stability. They like to see where you are. An electoral roll is generally a thing that they rely on a lot, right? So get yourself on the electoral roll. Second point from me is, this might sound a bit funny, but usually to get credit, you need to have credit, right? So I'm not saying go and borrow thousands of pounds. That's not what I'm suggesting. Obviously, credit cards is a good starting point. So you can get a credit card. If you're new in the country, a lot of lenders may not give you a credit card, but there are building credit cards or starter credit cards, right? You don't need thousands of pounds as limits. You just need a small limit, and just pay your groceries and make sure you pay your credit card in full, because that way the banks can start tracking how well you manage your credit, right? Just be mindful, if you don't want to pay any interest, just make sure you pay your credit cards in full and don't build up balances, because that may affect you anyway, right? So that's the second thing you can do. There are other things that you can do. Make sure you pay your bills on time, right? That is quite important, because the UK systems are such, right? If you sort of delay your payments, it can cause problems like, we call it CCJs in the UK, county court judgments, or if there's mispayments, that will be taken as a negative as well. So those kind of things you want to avoid, right? So just make sure you pay your bills on time. Connected to that is direct debits, right? A lot of you may not be aware, because obviously you're new in the UK. There is something called a direct debit system, right? So direct debit is, if you say get utilities, right? The utility company will automatically charge your bank account every month the bill that you're supposed to pay, right? So that means no worry for you. And if you're paying that on time, thumbs up, it helps your credit score, because they know you honor your payments, right? So those are the things that you definitely need to do. Another thing I tell people is, as much as possible, don't try to just keep moving houses, right? Because banks like to see stability.
Yeah.
And if you have about within a span of, say, 1.5 years, you move 4 houses, banks worry a little bit because they think you're not stable, right? So try not to do that. I know sometimes it's unavoidable, but try not to do that because it can affect your credit score.
Yeah.
There are other little things like having a land phone number sometimes helps, they say, right? So, I mean, I've seen that happen as well, right? So make sure that if you can do it, do it. It does affect a little bit, right? So that might be another option. And also, please make sure if you are moving house to update addresses everywhere, right? Because if you are generally connected to more than one address, banks worry about it as well because they sometimes think, oh, this guy is in 2 houses, or there's no stability sort of thing, right? So you just need to be very careful because they like to track where you are. And if all your addresses are moved to the same house, they actually know where you are, right? So that's the kind of thing that they want to do. So if you can work on things like that, I think that is really helpful. Again, what you can do is plan this early. If you're planning to buy a house in the UK,
Yeah.
there are like brokers like us, or there's other brokers as well who might be able to help you. Download your credit report, right? You can download your credit report. A lot of agencies offer this. Most of the time, it is free for a month as well, right? Most agencies offer this as an incentive for them to sign you up, right? But if you cancel it within a month, you don't pay any fees, right? So download the report and speak to an advisor, speak to someone like us, because we might be able to guide you on how to improve your scores, right? That will be a starting point. And keep monitoring your scores as well, right? Because that will definitely help.
Oh yeah, thanks, Ifti. It's good. And I just wanted to say to people, anyone who's watching this who's having problems, finding credit card company or, please get in touch because we can help you. We can guide you in the right direction with things like that. We know of a couple that work. We can pass on that information to you for sure. Ifti, the next thing we wanted to talk about is our mortgage passport service for foreign nationals. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. Okay, so this is just a service that we are doing, right? So what that means is not a product as such, right? It is mainly we provide guidance for people. So for example, a foreign national who's come and is thinking of buying a house, we help with things like monitoring their credit scores and just monitoring as you go, help them build up their deposit towards the house, look at potential schemes, keep an eye on rates for them. So we could do that service, right? We don't assure you a mortgage, but at the same time, we can make sure that you're building yourself up to that mortgage. So, that's the kind of service we offer for foreign nationals, right? Obviously, the mortgage products will come from banks, but all what we are doing is we are trying to build them up so that they'll be ready to apply for their mortgage as soon as possible, right? So that's the idea behind the system, yeah.
Yeah, great. And I will leave all our contact details below for anybody who would like more information on that service. Just before we wrap up, Ifti, is there anything else that you'd like to mention that might help out our foreign nationals get their first-time buyer purchase?
Yeah, obviously, UK is a lovely place to buy a house, especially if you plan to live here long-term, right? It's definitely a good place. And we see a lot of foreign nationals come, their long-term intention is to live in the UK, and they do buy houses as well. So a lot of people want to do this, but just make sure that you don't get into it from a wrong footing, right? Just make sure you do it right from day one. Plan it in advance, right? As early as possible, plan it. Like I said, you can use some of the services we offer, someone else offers. Make sure that you sort of follow the guidance given by them because a lot of these things will be new to you, right? So that's why I said guidance is always helpful. Just make sure you're on the right path and you should be good, right? So that's the whole idea.
Thanks again for some great advice, Ifti. I just wanted to put a reminder out there that these points may or may not be applicable to everybody, so please do get in touch with a broker. And if you don't have a broker, I will leave our WS contact details below, as I said, as we are always more than happy to help. A little reminder that as a mortgage is secured against your home or property, it may be repossessed if you do not keep up with the mortgage repayments. Thank you again for joining us again today. We'll be back next week with another episode of Let's Talk Money and Mortgages. Have a great day, stay safe, and we'll see you again soon.